At 23, I started asking strangers to get undressed. Since then, I've asked over 20,000 people to get naked, not counting my boyfriends. My instructions are simple. Take everything off. Here's a gown. I'll be back in a moment. At first, men used to say, "You don't look old enough to ask me to take my clothes off." Now, women really confuse me. Do I have to take off my underwear? Well, I can't do a pap through your panties. What about my bra? Aren't you here for a breast exam? After all that, I walk in and they're still wearing socks. Technically, if your socks are on, you're not really naked. Then a friend tells me, if a doctor's going to look up my hoo-ha, I keep my socks on as an energetic condom. Okay. But why schedule a physical if you're just going to ask, mind if I keep my clothes on? What's the resistance? What does it mean to be unclothed, exposed, vulnerable? We're born naked, and we leave this life naked. In between, we wear interesting costumes, like this one. And we struggle to find ourselves. I'm not really into the white coat thing. I find it creates separation and anxiety rather than intimacy. And I want to remove all artificial barriers between me and my patients. I want to expose who doctors really are, how we think and feel and love and suffer, and why you should care. Your doctor may be the first face you see as you're born, and the last one you see as you die. We look deep inside you in places nobody has been before. We prescribe drugs that could kill you or save your life. Should you really be picking us randomly from a preferred provider list generated by your insurance company? I'm a family physician born into a family of physicians. My parents sat me down and warned me not to pursue medicine, like most doctors do their kids. But I love being a family doctor, and I love my patients. I hug them and kiss them, and I do house calls, and most patients call me Pamela or Sweetie or Honey. They all have my home phone number. I'm on call 24/7, but I never feel like I'm working. I thought I was the happiest doctor in America until one day last year. On a perfectly beautiful fall day in the middle of our city park, one of our most loved pediatricians shoots himself in the head. He isn't the only one. He's our third physician suicide in over a year. At his memorial, people keep asking why. A gunshot wound isn't a question mark, it's an exclamation point. Then it hits me. Both men I dated in med school are dead. Maybe they're suicides too. Brilliant physicians. They're loved by their communities. Both died by accidental overdose. Really? Doctors don't accidentally overdose. We dose drugs for a living. I've been a doctor for 20 years. I've never lost a patient to suicide. I've lost only friends, colleagues, lovers, all male physicians. In the US, we lose over 400 physicians per year to suicide, the equivalent of an entire medical school gone. I leave his memorial and head up to the mountains where I'm leading a retreat. I open with two questions. How many doctors have lost a colleague to suicide? All hands are raised. How many doctors have considered suicide? Except for one woman, all hands remain up, including mine. We take an oath to preserve life at all costs while secretly plotting our own deaths. Why? Like most doctors, my greatest joy is in the patient relationship. But most doctors are like factory workers. Assembly line medicine had killed my soul and the soul of my colleagues. Bright-eyed med students become burned-out doctors, eyes glazed over with PTSD. We see far too much pain, and a cry for help is weakness. And a visit to a psychiatrist may be professional suicide. We're not supposed to cry, hug, love our patients. We're not supposed to make mistakes. We're not really supposed to be human. But I did something doctors don't usually do. Rather than end my life, I asked for help. Not from a psychiatrist or a friend. I asked my entire town for help. I called a town hall meeting where I shared my pain publicly. I stood up and bared my soul to the very people who once stood naked before me. And I invited them to design an ideal clinic. I promised to do whatever they wanted as long as it was basically legal. I collected these 100 pages of testimony, adopted 90% of their feedback, and we opened 1 month later. The first ideal clinic designed by patients. My patients taught me that an ideal clinic is a sanctuary, a safe place, a place of wisdom where we can learn to live harmlessly, listen with empathy, observe without judgment. It's a place where a revolution starts, a new way of seeing, where we rediscover our priorities. With no front counters separating people from people. Sofas, not hard chairs. Purple flannel gowns and complimentary massage while waiting. All in a place where nobody is turned away for lack of money. In less than 30 days, with no outside funding, I brought my town's dream to life. Since opening in 2005, other doctors have led town halls and invited their communities to design ideal clinics. In the grassroots movement for ideal medical care, hundreds of ideal clinics have opened across America. You may have one right in your neighborhood. We're tracking many of them on a detailed map at idealmedicalcare.org. What people want is simple. They want to sit in a living room with a friend who happens to be their doctor. They want a direct relationship. It's called disintermediation, removing the middlemen. So first, I removed politicians. Why wait for an elected official to lead a town hall? I love my town, so I led a town hall. Asked people what they wanted, and I delivered it. The best part, I didn't even have to run for political office. Then patients asked me to remove staff who weigh, measure, and take notes the doctor doesn't read anyway. So I have no staff. Technology streamlines tasks. I diagnose and treat patients. I even take out my own trash. It's surprisingly simple. I removed unnecessary tests and procedures because I discovered I can care for most people with one piece of equipment. My stethoscope. 85% of all diagnoses can be made just by listening to the patient. And listening to patients makes me happy. And we need happy doctors who will listen to the stories of our lives with love, hope, and joy, because medicine is supposed to be fun. We need to be having way more fun with our doctors. Here's why. One day, this lady limps in with foot pain. We've never met before, but we start joking around like best friends, okay? She's up on the exam table. I'm taking her sock off, and she starts telling me about her pet cockatoo and the coconut curry she just ate for lunch, with her naked foot like right in my face. I'm laughing so hard I nearly inhale the navy blue sock lint from between her toes. When she finally leaves, I realize I never examined her foot. I call to apologize. She tells me her pain disappeared. Maybe laughing with each other is health care. What if we all had fun physicals? Or better yet, I really recommend these, pap parties. It's the latest thing in medicine. That is a live goat in a party hat. In my office. For a photo shoot for my book, Pet Goats and Pap Smears. Maybe you're not ready for a pet goat with your pap smear. I don't know. But it's okay. Because a patient explains, fun is when you have a warm relationship where you feel like you love and care about your doctors, and they love and care about you. That creates all kinds of freedom to ask questions and come up with insights, a complete human relationship, which, by the way, is healing for the doctor, too. You know, maybe our doctors wouldn't be dying if they started living and laughing with their patients. Because what patients really need more than anything else is a human being who is being human. But here's the paradox. We resist what we most desire. Intimacy. Intimacy means into me see. It's when we see so deeply into another that we find our own reflections and discover ourselves. Being so visible is threatening to some, even considered dangerous. My dad thinks I must be getting hate mail. I'm not exactly getting hate mail, but the editor of a medical journal did ask me to respond to this letter. It's from the business manager of a clinic. I don't know what to think of the article by Dr. Pamela Wible, Why I'm Loving Private Practice, in the July-August issue of Physician's Practice. There has got to be a lot that she didn't tell about her practice. How does she make a living practicing this way? She says nobody is turned away for lack of money. Really now? What world does she live in? Does she accept Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance? She must have an outside income source. How long of a day does she work? She says she's a solo doc with no staff. Well, if that's the case, who answers the phone, makes the appointments, does the billing, makes copies for her, deals with the mail, takes care of her computers, and pays the bills while she is seeing her patients? I don't know about you, but I don't want to see my physician with frilly hair, dangly jewelry, Levi's, and clogs. Look professional, for goodness sake. Hasn't she ever heard of the physician placebo effect? Look like you know something. You're not the patient's mall shopping buddy. You are her physician. Well, I thought that was hate mail, but a friend of mine who actually gets hate mail tells me that's when someone wants to kill you. This is more like disparaging mail from a guy whose primary ammunition is my necklace and my hair. But here's my response. Pulled out of my Levi's pant pocket. Printed beside his in the subsequent issue. As an employee at a big box clinic, I used to forfeit 74% of my revenue to overhead. Now, thanks to a small office with no staff, I can get my overhead down to 10%. By keeping 90% of my money, I can work part-time and exceed my full-time employed salary. This is the world that I live in. I have no significant outside income. I accept most insurance, submit my own claims, and get paid in a few weeks. Patients schedule online and rarely call my cell for emergencies, because when you have 30 to 60 minutes, you actually handle their appointments when they're in, so they don't really have emergencies. Get all their questions answered. I open my own mail. I pay my own bills. I answer my own phone, all at my home business office, just down the street from my clinic, where I see patients uninterrupted by the buzzing, beeping, and frenzy of a typical medical practice. The patriarchal medical model is obsolete. The traditional doctor draped in a white coat is not so favored by patients. People today value authenticity over authoritarianism. My clients want the real Pamela with frizzy hair, tribal jewelry, comfy Levi's, and colorful clogs. Patients don't want cookbook medicine or cookie-cutter doctors. Let's be real. Compassion, competence, and authenticity will always be more therapeutic than a placebo outfit. I don't mind being attacked. I actually enjoy it. It means I've exposed a nerve, touched a place of vulnerability in another person, and that excites me. I think we're all yearning for a deep, energetic connection with one another, even if we're afraid to take off our socks. Patients today don't want professional distance. We want professional closeness with a doctor who has a big heart and a great love for people and service. In a clinic where we feel warm, nurtured, loved, and important. What can we learn from this? What does it mean to fully disrobe for one another? What would happen if patients and doctors were willing to be completely vulnerable? Most of us go to the doctor because we fear death, but maybe it's the fear of living that kills us. So what is healing? And why do we really go to the doctor? Not to be put on an algorithm or a flow sheet. Not to be a number or a statistic. We secretly want to be witnessed, seen for who we really are in the world, naked. That's when we heal. Thank you.